The wind was cold that evening when a lonely man named Samuel Carter rode into a small valley town called Red River Crossing. His horse was tired and his coat was covered in dust from long travel. Samuel had been wandering from place to place for years, never staying long anywhere. People said he once had a home, maybe even a family, but something in his eyes told another story. Something painful. Something that made him keep moving. Red River Crossing was a strange town. Half of it was filled with settlers, people who had come from the east to build homes and farms. The other half belonged to a proud native tribe led by Chief Iron Elk, a wise man who carried peace in his heart, but strength in his hands. For months, both sides had lived with tension. A misunderstanding about land had turned into small fights, angry words, and broken trust. The air in the valley felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. When Samuel entered town, people barely noticed him. He tied his horse near the well and went to the small tavern. He ordered black coffee and sat in the corner, quietly watching. He did not talk much, but soon, people began to notice his calm way, his polite manners, and the respect in his voice when he spoke. The local blacksmith said, "That man carries silence like a shield." Days passed and Samuel began helping around town. When the tribe's water wheel broke, he offered to repair it. When a young native boy fell from a horse, Samuel treated his wound with care. He never asked for money, only nodded and went on his way. Slowly, even the tribe began to trust him. Chief Iron Elk himself watched him one evening as Samuel worked quietly near the river. The chief said to his daughter, "That man is not loud, but his spirit is strong. But peace is a fragile thing." One afternoon, the valley's calm was broken. Luke Harlan, a reckless settler known for drinking and trouble, walked into the center of town shouting rude words about the tribe. He called them thieves and mocked their traditions. A few of the tribe's young men stepped forward, angry and ready to defend their honor. The crowd gathered. The air was thick with tension. Chief Iron Elk arrived soon after, riding his horse proudly. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. "If you have a problem," the chief said to Luke, "settle it with honor, not insult. I challenge you to a duel of courage. One man, one shot. Let the spirits decide who stands with truth." The crowd fell silent. Duels of honor were rare, but when a chief gave a challenge, it meant his dignity had been wounded. Yet Luke, full of fear behind his angry face, laughed loudly. "I don't fight with your kind," he said. "Your honor means nothing to me." His words cut through the crowd like a blade. People began to shout. The chief's warriors took a step forward. The settlers grabbed their guns. A fight was close to breaking out when a calm voice rose from the crowd. "I will stand," Samuel said quietly. Everyone turned toward him. His face was still, his eyes steady. "If he will not fight, then I will. No one should speak of courage and refuse to prove it." Chief Iron Elk looked at Samuel carefully. "You would fight for my people, though you are not one of us?" Samuel nodded. "A man's word should mean something," he said. "And peace should not die because of one man's pride." For a moment no one spoke. Then the chief raised his hand. "So be it. Tomorrow at sunrise the duel will take place by the riverbank. Let the spirits witness." That night Samuel sat outside the old barn staring at the stars. The wind whispered softly through the trees. He took a small notebook from his pocket and wrote only a few words. A man must sometimes stand for something greater than himself, even if no one remembers his name. He placed the notebook back into his coat and smiled faintly. His horse nickered beside him as if sensing his thoughts. Samuel whispered, "Tomorrow, old friend, we find out if peace can be stronger than fear." At sunrise, the valley was quiet. Mist floated over the river. Both settlers and tribe members gathered on opposite sides of the bank. The chief stood tall, dressed in his ceremonial coat. Luke, pale and shaking, held his rifle with both hands. Samuel stood across from him, calm, his hat low over his eyes. A young boy beat a drum softly, marking the rhythm of the moment. Then the chief lifted his hand, signaling the start. "One shot each," he said. "Let the earth remember this day." The valley fell silent. Even the birds seemed to stop flying. Samuel's breath was slow and deep. Luke's finger trembled on the trigger. Then, 2 shots rang out, smoke rose in the air. Everyone held their breath. When the mist cleared, Luke's hat flew into the river, a hole clean through it. Samuel's bullet had missed his head by inches. Luke's shot, fired in panic, had gone wide, hitting only the sand. The crowd gasped. Samuel lowered his rifle and looked across the river. "Let this be the last blood that never falls," he said softly. His voice carried over the water. "Peace does not need graves." The chief walked forward slowly. He raised both hands to the sky and spoke in his language a short prayer of thanks. Then he turned to the people and said, "The duel is finished. This man has fought with courage and mercy. There will be no more war in this valley." A cheer rose from the crowd, first from the tribe, then from the settlers. For the first time in months, both sides shouted together. Children laughed and women began to sing. The chief placed his hand on Samuel's shoulder. "You fought with honor," he said. "You fought for peace. Tonight we celebrate not victory, but understanding." That evening, as the tribe prepared a great fire for celebration, Samuel quietly packed his saddlebag. He did not like attention or praise. He looked once toward the firelight glowing in the distance, hearing music and laughter. But he turned away and walked into the dark woods instead. He camped alone by the river, the same river where he had stood that morning. The moon reflected on the water like silver glass. Samuel smiled faintly and whispered, "Maybe tonight this land will finally rest." He lay down beside his horse, the sound of the river soft and peaceful. The valley slept without fear for the first time in many months. Far away at the celebration, Chief Iron Elk raised his hand to quiet his people. "The stranger who fought for us has vanished," he said. "But his spirit stays in this valley. He showed us that courage is not in hatred, but in kindness." The people nodded. The chief's daughter, Ayana, looked toward the dark forest and whispered a prayer under her breath. The stars shimmered above as if listening, and somewhere beyond the trees, Samuel Carter closed his eyes, at peace with himself for the first time in years. He had fought not for glory, not for reward, but for what his heart believed was right. The duel of honor was over. But the story of the lonely man who fought without fear was only beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over Red River Valley, painting the sky with soft gold and orange colors. The river glimmered like a ribbon of light. Samuel Carter woke up near the same riverbank where he had fought the duel the day before. His horse was grazing quietly nearby, and a gentle breeze brushed through the grass. The world felt peaceful, something rare for a man who had lived through storms all his life. Samuel sat up and looked around. The valley was calm again. The sounds of laughter and celebration from the previous night had faded into silence. Birds chirped and the smell of wildflowers filled the air. He smiled faintly, knowing that his purpose here was done. He had come as a stranger, but he was leaving behind peace between two worlds. He brushed the dust off his coat, tightened the saddle on his horse, and prepared to ride away. Before leaving, he looked at the river one last time. The reflection of the rising sun shone across the water. He whispered, "It's time to move on." His voice was soft, filled with gratitude. Just as he was about to mount his horse, a distant sound reached his ears, the steady beat of horses' hooves. Samuel turned and saw a group of riders approaching through the valley mist. Leading them was Chief Iron Elk, tall and proud in his ceremonial attire. His dark hair was braided and he wore a necklace of carved stones. Behind him rode several warriors, and among them was a young woman dressed in traditional clothing, Ayana, the chief's daughter. Samuel stood still as they approached. He was surprised to see them, but bowed his head respectfully. Chief Iron Elk dismounted and walked toward him with calm steps. His face was serious, but his eyes carried warmth. "You came to us as a stranger," the chief began, his voice strong and deep. "Yet you risked your life for our honor and saved this valley from bloodshed. You fought with courage, but you also showed mercy. That is the highest form of strength." Samuel listened quietly. He didn't know what to say. He had never thought of himself as a hero. He simply did what he believed was right. Chief Iron Elk continued, "Among our people, we honor such men in a special way. We do not give gold or land. We offer something far greater: family, trust, and a place among us." The chief turned slightly, and Ayana stepped forward. She held a folded blanket of bright colors, hand-woven with tribal patterns. Her eyes were gentle but filled with pride. The chief raised his hand toward her and said, "This is my daughter, Ayana. She is wise and kind. I offer her to you as my greatest gift, as a symbol of peace between our worlds. If your heart accepts, she shall walk beside you." The words struck Samuel deeply. He was not expecting such an offer. The valley fell quiet. Even the horses seemed to stand still. Samuel looked at the chief, then at Ayana. Ayana did not lower her eyes. She met his gaze calmly with quiet confidence. There was no fear in her face and only grace and understanding. She had watched him from a distance during the duel, seen the courage in his heart and the gentleness in his actions. Now, standing before him, she felt a deep respect. Samuel spoke slowly, choosing his words with care. "Chief Iron Elk, you honor me more than I can ever repay. I am only a wanderer, a man with no home and no riches. I do not deserve such kindness," the chief nodded. "Kindness is not given to those who ask," he said wisely. "It is given to those who earn it, and you have earned ours." Samuel took a deep breath. He looked again at Ayanna. She smiled softly, her expression calm, her eyes shining in the morning light. In that moment, Samuel felt something warm stir in his chest, a feeling of belonging that he hadn't felt in years. Yet he also knew that his journey was not over. He bowed his head deeply before the chief. "You have given me something I will carry forever in my heart," he said. "But my road is not finished. There are still places I must go, people who need the peace I've found here. I cannot stay, not because I don't care, but because I must keep moving forward." The chief's face softened. He understood. A true warrior never stays where his duty ends. He carries his spirit onward. "Then you will not go empty-handed," Chief Iron Elk said. He took the ceremonial blanket from Ayanna and draped it over Samuel's shoulders. It was heavy, warm, and full of meaning. "This will remind you that you have a home here even if your feet walk far away. Wherever you go, you carry our friendship." Samuel placed his hand over his heart. "I will never forget," he said sincerely. Then Ayanna stepped closer. She took something from around her neck, a small pendant carved in the shape of an eagle. It was made of bone and tied with a leather cord. She held it out to him. "This eagle is a sign of protection," she said softly. "It flies high, but its heart never forgets the land it came from. Wherever you go, let this keep you safe." Samuel accepted it gently. His fingers brushed hers as he took the pendant, and for a brief moment, time seemed to stop. There was quiet respect between them, a connection built not on words but on shared understanding. He tied the pendant around his neck. It rested close to his heart. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I will wear it always." Ayanna smiled and stepped back beside her father. The chief gave a final nod. "Then go in peace, Samuel Carter. The wind will carry our prayers with you." Samuel mounted his horse slowly. He looked one last time at the chief and his daughter. They stood side by side, tall and proud against the morning light. The warriors behind them lifted their hands in a gesture of farewell. As Samuel rode away, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting long golden shadows over the valley. The river sparkled like a mirror, and the sound of hooves echoed softly on the earth. The air felt light, as if the land itself was breathing freely again. He rode for miles, but the image of the chief and Ayanna stayed in his mind. He could still feel the weight of the blanket on his shoulders and the warmth of the eagle pendant on his chest. He thought about how strange life was, how a lonely traveler could find honor, friendship, and peace in a place he had never planned to visit. That night, Samuel stopped at the top of a hill overlooking the valley. The stars were bright above him. He took out his notebook and wrote a few new lines beneath the words he had written the night before. "Some men fight for glory, others fight for pride, but the greatest fight is for peace, and peace never needs to draw blood." He closed the notebook and looked up at the sky. Somewhere down below in the quiet valley, fires still glowed in the distance. He imagined Chief Iron Elk sitting near one of them, telling stories to his people and Ayanna listening, perhaps thinking of the traveler who had come and gone like a passing wind. A gentle smile touched Samuel's face. "Maybe one day," he whispered, "I'll find a place to rest." He lay back under the stars, his horse sleeping nearby. The night air was cool and the pendant on his chest felt warm against his skin. The eagle's wings caught the faint light of the moon, shining softly. Before falling asleep, Samuel closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Chief, thank you, Ayanna." And with that, he drifted into peaceful dreams, the kind that come only to those who have made peace not just with the world, but with themselves. Far away, the valley slept soundly. The river flowed gently, singing its timeless song. And though the lonely man had gone, his courage and kindness remained, carried forever in the hearts of those who had seen him stand without fear and fight not for pride, but for honor.